GAC, the Chinese automaker that you probably never heard of, just like you probably never heard of quite a few others, like Biten and Bike and so forth, because they just make cars in China and it's a completely different universe and different market and so forth. But it looks like many of them are going to be coming to North America and to Europe. This is one of the cars that they've unveiled, and by they I mean GAC, at the Detroit Auto Show. And this was designed here in California, believe it or not. Let's talk about this particular brand, but let's also talk about what's going to happen in the next few years as Chinese auto manufacturers are going to be making their way to here, to America, to Europe, and how it's going to affect the market. And is it even possible? Are you guys going to buy one? Let me know in the comment section. But for now, let me tell you all about this coming up next. Taking over the world, electrifying the world, E4 Electric! Welcome to E4 Electric, your #1 source of unbiased electric car news. If this is your first time here, go ahead and click on that subscribe button. It's free. That way you don't miss anything moving forward. Let's talk about the Chinese automakers. Now, GAC is the 5th largest in China. Now, I was in China in June, and I've seen quite a few of these cars on the road with this logo. At first, I thought it was a Gucci logo, to be honest. I was like, oh, cool, Gucci makes cars here in China. How can I get one? And, what kind of pattern I'm going to have on my seats. All right, that wasn't true, but they are a major manufacturers and tons of cars. They are, I believe, in 16 countries, but they're really not in Europe or in North America. Now, they have now established a design studio in California, and this new concept that's called in trans EV concept is just made a premiere at the Detroit Auto Show. Now, normally I wouldn't cover this because it's a concept car, and yeah, it looks kind of cool, but it's but there's a bigger thing going on here. The Chinese brands, really are going to cross over sooner or later to the United States. They've also created an R&D center in Michigan as well. So now they have presence in Michigan and California, kind of the right places to have your presence if you're going to jump in here. As you know, not earlier this year, last year, NIO, the manufacturer of all electric cars in China, went public in the US without much presence at all, and they will be crossing the ocean to be here. And so now a lot of people saying, well, I'm not going to buy a Chinese car. Well, I don't know how to make cars, right? As then they check their email on their iPhones that are made in China. And as a matter of fact, things have improved. Like, I think this is like 20-year old mentality where Chinese goods were maybe not that great of a quality. But now, China has really, really stepped up their game because there's so many American and European companies that make their goods there that their manufacturing industry has completely turned around. They really know how to do stuff. As a matter of fact, things like iPhone that you guys all love, everybody considers Apple an American company, right? Well, they make all of their iPhones in China, essentially, and we're all okay with it. We all love the quality of the iPhones and so many, many other goods and services that we get from China. And cars is not really going to be an exception, and this is where GAC is going to be one of them. Now, granted, the regulations here in America and in Europe are much harsher, and they're going to have to adjust and understand how to make cars, but they have so many partnerships with existing legacy automakers that really will most likely help them to cross that gap. Now, here's another picture of the car. By the way, check this out. Right here's the full screen. Here's another one from the back. Let me know if it reminds you a little bit of the Faraday Future. And here's the Faraday Future one. I'm not saying they look the same. I'm just saying it reminds me of it. But I'm not saying it's bad. And by the way, saying one SUV looks like the other SUV is really not saying much. And I do love the look. I really do love the look. Again, this is a concept, and really this video is about something more than that. By the way, let's talk about Biten a little bit, because there's other Chinese companies that are not really Chinese companies. Before that, I just want to remind you guys that this video and this channel is sponsored by the Starman Gifts, the home of the adventures of Starman, which is an amazing comic book that you just must own. The creator is Eli Burton, who's been on my show a few times. I saw him have Elon Musk himself sign his own copy of this. Really cool. There's a discount code in the description of this video, and you can buy that and many other cool things that they sell in their store at starmangifts.com. All right, so Biten, right? So the Biten is a company that I know I'm a big fan of. They have a factory in China. They're going to be going in production there and then hitting the U.S. market, then European market. However, that's a little different than companies that are kind of legacy manufacturers in China, and they're moving here because Biden and a few other companies like Lucid Motors, a few other ones, yes, they have major Chinese investors. Biden has a Chinese factory, but really they've already positioned themselves as global brands. So it kind of right away, when they're testing their prototypes or when they're building their prototypes, the testing is already done with the standards of European and North American market in mind, and they're hitting them. I just talked to the CEO of Biten during the LA Auto Show and CES, and that's a different video that I'm posting in the next few days, and that's what he confirmed as well, that's kind of was the plan all along. Now with Chinese manufacturers, I think what you will find, and this is what you're going to be fine with Biden, right? If you make something in China and import it here, unless something majorly changed with tariffs, which it might, are going to be very cheap. Like the Bitens, which the M Byte especially, it's going to start at $45,000. That's the one with a huge screen up front. And people go, how the hell are they going to do it? Well, guess what? They're going to make it in China very cheap, or at least relatively cheap, then import it to United States and Europe, and that's how they're going to be able to compete with the rest of the manufacturers and probably even beat them in pricing in some ways or another. And I think we, United States and Europe, will find out that the quality of their cars may just be as good as quality of their iPhones that we make there, and quite a few other things that we buy from the companies that have manufacturing facilities in China. So by the way, here's the picture of it inside. Looks really cool. I mean, I think a lot of these concepts, they kind of all show us the very same future of what essentially is going to be self-driving cars, where the steering wheel is really not that big of a deal. They're more designed for kind of a hangout and playing with your kids and having it as your office and so forth. So that kind of goes in parallel with that. So that, by the way, let me give a quick shout out to one of my new Patreons, Kevin Shen. Thank you so much for joining my Patreon community. That's how I eat, really, put bread on my table. I'm an independent, full-time YouTuber, so thank you so much. And of course, those of you who are Patreons on a higher tier get to watch me live. You guys are the first ones to see these videos. If you want to join Kevin and the rest of my Patreons, go to patreon.com/E4Electric. By the way, you can support me for as low as $1 a month. I don't think you can even support a kitten in your local shelter for that much money, so I am much more affordable, it looks like. But you can support both of us as well. All right, so let me know what you guys think. Would you buy a Chinese car, the Chinese manufacturer car that's made in China, when they come to the US and European market? And if so, what would be your requirements for them to win your heart? Let me know in the comment section. Other than that, see you guys next time, and remember to stay charged.